Hello Game Makers, this is GameMaker Rob, and in today's episode we implement stat requirements for classes, and we also incorporate our Radial Unit selection for the pre-battle setup as well. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is implement class stat requirements. So you need a certain amount of a particular stat or stats to become a class. The first thing we need for that is a new CSV file. I've called mine class requirements. All I've done is copy and paste the classes and characters CSV. And then we don't need any of these entries, but we're just going to keep them in just so these entries are the same for the classes and characters entries. So as you can see, there's no requirement for fighter or archer. Mage needs 15 intelligence, priest needs 15 wisdom, and it's kind of the same for the classes, although some require 2 stats, as you can see. And the monk requires 3 stats. So as normal, we need to use load CSV to create a grid out of our new CSV, and we're going to be doing that inside the create event of obj main. We want to be in the very first region, the character enums grid and word action enums, this one here. Let's just zoom in. And then just here, this line here is new, so we're going to store that grid, our new CSV, inside global.classRec. Okay, so now we're going to go to the step event of obj army screen. Let me just zoom out so we can see everything in the big picture. So we want to be in pressed enter, and then we want to be in the change class section, this stuff here. And the first thing we're going to do is add a new region called can character actually change to this class. So let's open up this new region. I'm just going to zoom in. Okay, so this stuff is new. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new variable called can change class and set it to true. And we're going to go through all the stats from strength to agility, and we're going to get the stat of the unit for that particular stat. So for example, the strength of the current unit. And then we're going to get the requirement for the class for that particular stat. So the stat requirements for whatever class we are selected right now. Then we're going to do a check to say, okay, is the unit's strength less than the class's stat requirement for strength? If it is, then we cannot change to that class, so set it to false, and we don't need to check any more stats, so we can break out of this for loop. And that's it. That's going to end up with a variable called change class, which is set to either true or false. And now we're going to wrap our existing code, this stuff here, in a check to say if can change class, then yeah, do the same code as before, and don't forget the curly bracket to close it there. So these 2 lines are new, and this region. Alright, so let's go to the draw GUI. We're just going to change the color of the stats now. So we want to be in the display stats region, and we used to just draw in red, but we're going to set that to black now. So that's the first change. Then we've got a new region here. So this stuff is new. So if the state is change class, then we're going to have this brand new region. So again, we're going to get the value of the unit stat, whatever stat is currently being displayed. We only want to do this check if the stat is between strength and agility, because when we're displaying stats, we're displaying things like class and level as well, and XP, HP. This stuff only needs to be valid if the stat is between strength and agility. So as long as that condition is true, get the class that we're trying to change to, or potentially changing to. We're going to get the value of the stat that is required by the class. That's what this is going to do. And then same check as before, as we did in the step event. If the unit stat is less than the class requirement, then we're going to draw the stat in red. Otherwise, it will still be drawn in black because this won't be true. So we're going to end up with stats being drawn in either black or red. And that's it. Let's test this now. So let's run the game. Oh, I need to close the CSV, otherwise the game won't run. Okay, so army screen. Let's choose bots, change class. So you can see we have the class selected as fighter. That's his current class. You don't need any stats to be a fighter. Change to archer. Again, all the stats are still black. If I press right again, then you can see the intelligence stat is now in red because you need more than 10 intelligence. If I try and press enter, then I can't change to the mage. The priest, looks like I can change to the priest, so if I press enter, it didn't work. Warrior? No. Knight? No. Ranger? Sniper? Wizard? Sorcerer? Healer? Fight monk? Fighter. Okay, there must be a small bug. Let's fix that in a minute. But if you can't change those classes either, then you're at the same place as I am. Okay, so just a small change in the draw GUI. That was my fault for being silly, really. So I've renamed unit stat to current stat to make it, because that's what this is. So whatever is stored inside stats to display is the current stat that's being displayed. And we want to check to see if the current stat is between strength and agility. The class requirement for that stat is contained within this grid, but we're using current stat. And then we can use stat value instead of unit stat because we've already determined the value of the unit for that particular stat in this variable there. Hopefully that makes sense. Just make sure you've replaced those variables. It makes more sense to me now with the renaming of this. And also, if it's of interest, you can do a little debug thing in the step event. So inside change units class, inside our new region, can the character actually change to this class? I put down 4 show debugs. It's gonna, every time we try and change class, it'll tell me the class we're changing to, the stat that we're trying, the stat that is being checked in this loop, the unit's value for that stat, and the class requirement for that stat. So it's going to tell us which stat we found that wasn't enough for that particular unit for that class. So one more time, let's run the game. I'll show you that in action. Okay, so army, choose bots, change class. So let's go back to priest. So now you can see with the priest, the wisdom stat is in red. We press enter. At the bottom in output, it says class priest, that's correct. Stat wisdom, that's correct. Units value is 10, that's correct. And the class requirement is 15. So that's cool. Let's check for warrior. Press enter. So it says warrior, strength 10, 20. That's perfect. Let's change to archer. There we go. We're now an archer. Okay, so the last thing I want to do today is implement our ellipse radial selection for the pre-battle. It's pretty cool, you know, I think so. It doesn't really require a lot of work, just some copy pasting for the most part. Let's go to the create event of obj test. At the bottom, we've got a new region called radial display and rotation, and I've decided to use draw queue instead of unit draw or whatever else I had before for this object, and then the rest of this is copy pasted from the create event of the army object. Then in the end step event, okay, so we are inside if state equals choose units and press enter. So what we're doing here is we are displaying all the units that are currently in the battle, and we're choosing an empty tile which will then open up a list of units. But for now, all we're pressing enter on is an empty tile, and we're checking to see if there's actually any soldiers inside the reserve list to display. This is the perfect point to use our ellipse setup script, which is going to do all the calculations we need to get the angles and distance between units. And we're going to pass it reserve list, because this is the list that holds the units, and draw queue. This is the queue that's going to hold the lists, to hold the stats for which unit to draw, what scale, that kind of thing. Exactly the same as last episode. So just this line is new. And then in the remove units region, again, we're going to run our setup script, because every time we remove a unit from the reserve list, we need to update our script. And then in our display reserve state, we're in the add from reserve region. We've added curly brackets to this line. This is the same as before. This stuff is copy pasted from the army screen object. But just to recap, so we're displaying the units inside the reserve list in an ellipse. If we press left or right, we're changing selected option to change which unit is being selected. We're resetting finish rotating to false to let the game know not to accept any input from the player. Let's do a check there as well. Yeah, that looks better. And then just updating a wanted angle by these values. So which way do we want to rotate? Then this stuff is new. So it's copy pasted from army screen from the bottom of the step event. So we're just making sure we're moving the start angle, so it will eventually match the wanted angle. And then once it does equal this, set finish rotating to true, the same as last episode. If we press enter and we are finished rotating, well, this has been added to this line, and then we just need to reset our draw stuff for the ellipse, all the variables, and that's it for the step event. So the last thing we need to do now is to update the draw GUI region. Let's just minimize some of this stuff. So we should be in the choose units region. Well, we just need to be in the display reserve units. This is what's been updated. So this is copy pasted from the army screen object. A couple of changes, for example, reserve list and draw queue. So whenever we're asking for the unit list, it's reserve list. Whenever we're asking for the queue that holds the unit lists, then it's the draw queue. We only have one state that's going to use this, so we can just have this line here. Again, using reserve list, and that's it. The rest is the same. The previous code is just commented out from before. What have we done here? I think I must have pressed something by mistake. So let's go to the battle now. Test this stuff is working. Press enter. You can see we've got our ellipse, we've got a fighter, a mage, and an archer. Pressing left and right has this effect. Oh, we've broken it. Oh well. Let me just fix that. Okay, as usual, it's just a silly mistake. This is how the game works now. If you press left and right as many times as you can, it won't affect the rotation like it did before. All it was in the step event, when we're checking, we're in the display reserve, add from reserve region. When we're checking for left and right, we want keyboard check pressed VK right or keyboard check pressed VK left within its own parentheses, because you want either this or this and finish rotating. Previously it looked like this, so it was for this to run, either you press right or left and finish rotating. So if you press right, then this is going to run regardless. That's basically what was happening. So we just need to make sure we enclose these two within parentheses and it'll work perfectly. Okay, that's going to be the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.